oh, Steph, I want to start a real estate YouTube channel, but I don't think I could stay consistent. What I want to share a little bit is like what it takes to get there and how to stay consistent, because it doesn't happen overnight. There is no like quick fix. You want to create content that you know is going to perform well, so give people what they actually need and what they're looking for. When it comes to creating content, I need it to be. Welcome to the Market Authority Show. I'm your host, Stephanie Lugo. If you have found your way here, you are a real estate pro who's ready to transition from chasing leads to getting dream clients to chase you. This podcast is where you will learn the business and system strategies you need to grow your real estate business so that you can get paid consistently, connect with dream clients, and keep your sanity. Let's get to it. Welcome back to the Market Authority Show. My name is Stephanie, your host. Depending on what platform you are watching this on, you can actually watch and listen to the podcast all in one. If you are like me and you're just an audio friend, you're listening on the pod wherever you get your podcasts, that is cool too. Hope you're having an amazing day. Okay, so here's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about consistent content creation for real estate agents. One of the things that I hear all the time is, oh, Steph, I want to start a real estate YouTube channel, but I don't think I could stay consistent. Or I know social media is really great for real estate, but I cannot manage my time well enough to stay consistent. I tend to overthink it. I can never just get it actually published. And if you've ever been there, you're definitely not alone. I work with literally hundreds of real estate agents every year, helping them figure this out. And as somebody who has been, I would say, very, very kind of obsessively consistent on the content creation side over the last several years, I've learned a few rules that help me stay really focused and really consistent. Who am I to talk about consistent content creation? Well, my organic content creation, meaning not just creating clickbaity ads on Instagram to generate leads, my organic brand building content on Instagram helped us grow that into one of our strongest pillars of business for our real estate team. I'm on a real estate team with my husband, if you did not know, and he and I over the last 10 years have grown our real estate business to really just help organically connect us with dream clients on and off social media. And Instagram has been a big part of that. At one point, Instagram was our number one lead driver. And I think back in the last time I really looked at it, back in 2021, we were able to generate over 200K GCI from Instagram alone. And that is not uncommon for us. That is a pretty typical year in Instagram leads that come through, which is fantastic. But what I want to share a little bit is what it takes to get there, and how to stay consistent, because it doesn't happen overnight. And there is no quick fix. It is going to be something that you have to work on and that you have to stick through and that you have to stay very curious and continue testing for. Now, saying that is one thing, but being able to actually accomplish it is a totally different thing. So the rules that I like to follow to stay super consistent with my real estate social media content are the following. Number one, you want to keep a running list of ideas. But what I mean by that is most of my content is really responding to questions that I've received. So while Instagram is a huge portion of my real estate business, another thing that I do is create YouTube videos. And I've been creating YouTube videos every single week for the last 4 years. That might be where you're watching this now. And I've generated over 24,000 subscribers on YouTube. It's a great source of referral business for our team. But again, I have to stay consistent on there. And if you actually look at that channel, I have 617 videos on there. That used to be a lot of my real estate videos too for my real estate team. But most of this is literally tips for real estate agents. And you don't have to really come up with these organically. You don't have to make up video topics. So if you are looking to start a YouTube channel and your main concern is how do I stay consistent with it? You should not be trying to pull questions or pull topics out of thin air. You should be doing a lot of research on your ideal clients, the people who you're wanting to attract into your business, and create content so that they are most likely searching for. And the way to do this is just like listen to the people who you're speaking to. So if you're in an open house or if you're working with a client and they ask you an interesting question, take a moment and think of where the content piece is in that. And this is like one of the easiest things you can do is just write down the question in your notes app on your phone, or I actually keep all of mine in a running list on Google Sheets on my editorial calendar, where I keep all of my, where I manage all of my content. That's like my content system. And I just make sure to have like this running list of like question prompts, FAQs that I get from my clients, all kinds of stuff. And when you actually like look at your clients and each conversation as an opportunity to document what's happening, it makes it so much easier to create content consistently. And the cool part about that is it's also the most effective way to create content. Like, you want to create content that you know is going to perform well. So give people what they actually need and what they're looking for. So keep a running list based off of questions or challenges that you're hearing from your clients and just go from there. Then depending on what tends to pop off, like if you are posting videos consistently for a couple of weeks and you see one or two of them get kind of extra attention, they get a lot of views, more views than usual. What about that did so well, right? Just go back in and say, okay, what questions are they asking in the comments? Or is there a moment in that video in the analytics that had like overly high retention, like a little retention spike in there? If so, like that's just how you're going to continue creating content. You're not like making anything up as you go. You're literally just listening to your audience. Now, my second tip, this one is kind of interesting, and this is actually something that's really hard for me, and I'm constantly working on it, but it's to keep it narrow. I think a lot of times that when real estate agents specifically are creating content, the idea that they have is that it has to be very broad content, very complex, very heavy stuff. Right? So for example, you might think how to purchase a home in Arizona, or everything you need to know about purchasing your first home in Arizona. And that can become a very heavy topic, right? That gets like lending involved, that gets title involved, that gets like potential relocation challenges. You can get into a lot of crazy terminology. And instead of tackling like one video where it's a big, enormous topic like that, zoom in on one tiny piece and see how you can make content that's based on one small piece of a question or a need that your audience has. So for example, instead of creating a big, heavy piece of content that takes a lot of time, takes a lot of energy, and can be very expensive to produce, such as everything you need to know about moving to Arizona, instead say something like, this one thing can make your move to Arizona so much less stressful. And maybe that one thing is literally getting your pre-qualification before you begin your transaction, because you're going to need that pre-qualification letter with any offer that you submit. Somebody who's relocating from another state might not know that. That might be news to them. And it might also speak to a fear or a desire that they have to avoid overly stressful transactions. Give them a small digestible tip that's easy for you to create and easy for them to consume. I think that we have to remember that in keeping it narrow, it's really important that we are creating content that's easy for people to consume. And when you are creating really heavy, big pieces of content, that's not going to land as well today, in my opinion, because so much of our audience is used to that short form content now. Our attention spans have gotten very small, and it's way more valuable to be able to learn something within 7 to 10 seconds than 7 to 10 videos, unless they are looking for that kind of thing specifically. The other thing that's really important here, number 3, my third rule, is to keep it authentic. So I posted on my Instagram at Bryce and Stephanie, and I was sharing just some tips on, and behind the scenes on my content creation process, because I was preparing for today's filming day. So today, for example, we have the film set up, all ready to go. This is my 6th piece of content that we're creating today. So we did 4 videos for the YouTube channel. I did a podcast with Bryce, my real estate partner and my husband, more importantly. And now I'm doing this podcast. That's a lot of content. And when I was sharing that that's so much content I was going to be creating today, someone on the stories said, how do you batch that content and script it out to make sure that it doesn't like take so much time? Scripting it out takes so long, I think they said. And for me, I don't script any of this content. I would have a really hard time staying consistent if any one given part of the process took any longer than it needed to be. And when it comes to creating content, I need it to be fluid, I need it to be easy, and I need it to happen. And so keeping it authentic really helps to make that happen, because if when I used to actually script my videos, it would take a really long time, but it would remove the authenticity factor for it. So number one, it wasn't performing well enough because people could tell I was scripting it. Like, even if you're really good, and I'm really good, I think, at reading from a script or a teleprompter. But even if I was doing that as good as I am, you would still be able to tell probably. But if I have a really long script that I'm trying to read while looking engaged on camera and while being self-aware with that, if I miss a word, then I stumble, then I start second guessing myself, then I start screwing up my whole flow. I found that it was really hard to, when I wasn't being just my authentic self and like letting my freak flag fly here, I found that it was like way harder to stay consistent because it was just something that I learned to dread. It was going to be really hard. It was going to be really lengthy. It was going to take a lot of time. And so now what I do is I literally have my templates that I pull up for my YouTube videos. So for example, in preparing for today, I made 6 Google Docs with my video framework template in it. And as far as I got with scripting it was I put the title, the publish date, what I want in the thumbnail for most of them. And then I just put the like steps or info that I want to share. So like for this video, I had 5 rules that I wanted to lean into. And I literally have like 3-word little bullet points. And I do that with every single video. And I've done that for years. And it's way more simple, way more actionable, and it really forces you to pay attention to what you're saying and just look at the camera and have a conversation. If I were scripting it, I would be stumbling over my words. I'd be worried about getting every single word perfect or mispronouncing something in a certain tense on the script. Like, that just sounds like a nightmare. So just make it easy on yourself and stay authentic. Rule number 4, you gotta batch your content. You have to batch your content. And again, you want to make that as easy as you can to batch it. And so you also don't want to overbatch. So for me, doing a good like 4 or 5, maybe 6 videos at a time is perfect. And these are longer form videos. This is longer form content that you're listening to. This is not a 30-second reel or TikTok. This is like an actual podcast episode that is being done in one sitting. And so it makes it way easier to just delegate one day in the month to identify when you want to be getting this content done. So then you just block it out on your calendar, and it takes much less time when you do it that way. Usually I can create a month's worth of content within a couple of hours in one sitting. Now, luckily I have help on the editing side, so I'm not doing it from like the entire post-production process, but the main part is done. Like, I know what I need to post. I know what I need to say. I can say it and I can get out of there. That is the most important thing to having consistency, is being able to plan in advance and get as much done as you can. So for my last maternity leave, here's a really great example of how that worked well. My last maternity leave, I had my second son in November of 2022, so a little over a year from now ago. And I worked with my video editor to batch record like 16 videos or something crazy before I went on my maternity leave, because I knew that I was going to want like at least like 2 or 3 months off of filming. And it was so great to be able to have that confidence that I knew we had enough content planned in advance, and the content creation process like did not skip a beat. And that's how I've been able to stay so consistent over the last several years, even with how many life changes I've had. Like, I've had 2 babies in that time. We've gone through a pandemic. We've gone through like the craziest market you can imagine over the last several years. And now we're in a crazy market slow down. And so with so much happening externally, I could control how much content I was creating, and that has made all the difference. Now, that's creating video content, right? Or batching your content for the month, but you can also do quite a bit of batching just on the week. And so for me, it's really helpful to pre-plan the content that I'm creating a week in advance. And this is not me sitting down for hours creating every Instagram post or every reel. It's more so just figuring out what days I want to post and more or less what I'm going to post. So again, I just spend a little bit of time looking at my running list of content ideas. And I think, somebody asked me this question this week. This is probably on the top of people's minds. I'm going to definitely make a post about that. Maybe I'll make it a carousel post and just use some easy graphic templates that I have on Canva for that. And then I've got some great B-roll that I can create a 7-second reel on, and I'll put this text on top of it. So again, I'm not like going through the entire process of creating the content and batching it in advance in that way, if it's just on a weekly basis, but just by making sure to batch out like what I'm going to post and when I'm going to post it, takes a lot of that guesswork off and helps me plan my day around that. So finally, I want to talk about my last tip to staying consistent, and it's to keep it 10x'd. And I feel like the whole 10x culture is just, it's huge now, and you can 10x just about anything, right? But 10xing your content is one area where I really like to go all in. I like to look at every piece of content and think about how many ways can I repurpose this content. So what you don't want to get into is creating a very unique blog post and then creating a totally different YouTube video and then creating 3 different reels all on different topics. Like that to me is just like horrible. Instead, here's how you 10x rather a piece of content. Let's say you're creating a piece of content or a video on how to relocate to Arizona. That's again kind of broad. That's a really big video. And I would suggest not creating a video on something that broad, but just for the example, how to relocate to Arizona or how to relocate your small family to Arizona might be even better because that's a little bit more narrow. You might start by creating a longer form video or podcast conversation talking about that. You can script it out, or you can, from the recording, use AI or some other tool to pull text out. So you have a text script of that entire video that you created. What you can then do is to 10x that, repurpose that in a bunch of different ways. Take that text content and post that as a blog. You can post that as an article on LinkedIn. You can even take that text content and pull out different pieces of it and create an email newsletter series, right? So even from there, easily that is 10xing that content and repurposing it across a bunch of different platforms. Now, what then you can do is looking at that video. Let's say you had 3 or 4 main points that you made in your suggestions on relocating your small family to Arizona. Each one of those points can easily become a reel. When you should get pre-qualified when relocating to Arizona. The first thing you should do when relocating to Arizona and getting your offer accepted, right? Like looking at every single one of those steps as an individual short form piece of video helps you come up with that micro content that's, again, just plugging the exact same piece that you've already created, but repurposing it in a bunch of different ways. And if you say, well, Stephanie, isn't that just like repeating and regurgitating the same thing over and over again? Yeah, I mean, it kind of is, but think of it this way. Most of your audience, like literally less than 5% of your audience, is going to see any one piece of content that you post. So the chances of every single person who follows you seeing every single thing that you put out there into the ether is like non-existent. The other thing that happens is it takes a consumer several times to interact with your content before they decide to hire you. And I've seen numbers anywhere from 7 times to 23 times it takes a consumer to interact with your content before they have that know, like, and trust factor. So you do have to be very, very redundant in what you're saying, very repetitive. You do have to say the same thing over and over and over again until your audience truly starts to harbor that know, like, and trust factor with you. And it's going to feel kind of silly at the time, like in the moment. But when you actually look at it from a 10,000 foot view, it makes a lot of sense. And again, if you look at my Instagram or if you look at my YouTube channel, it is almost all the exact same messaging, but that's what makes it so powerful. That's how you carve yourself out as an authority in your niche. That's how you establish that know, like, and trust factor. And that's also how you educate your audience on the things that you want them to know. You can't educate somebody in just a passing short form video. You have to educate them through a lot of stories and context and examples. And that takes time and a repetitive nature of just education. And so that's why you want to make sure that you're 10xing content. It's not going to only be really helpful for you, but it's going to be extremely powerful on the distribution side as well. That's what I've got for you today. You are going to have really consistent content easily to perfect your content creation game in real estate in 2024. You're going to have 5 rules to follow. Number 1, you're going to keep that running list. So if you haven't done this yet, pull out your notes app in your phone, title it Content Ideas, and just anytime you have a great idea for content, make sure you go ahead and add that to the list. Number 2, you're going to keep it narrow. Okay, so instead of taking on these big pieces of content, just zone in on like the one little piece you can really hone in on. Number 3, keep it authentic. Let your freak flag fly, baby. We want to work with people who are cool, who are down to earth, who feel like someone that like we can hang out with, right? Your buyers and sellers are really no different. And that doesn't mean you like are going to lose professionalism. You can be authentic and still remain professional and really be personable at the same time. Number 4, you're going to keep it batched. Batch that content like your life depends on it. It is so important to plan ahead. And number 5, keep it 10x'd. You gotta 10x your content, repurpose it in as many different ways as you possibly can. This video in itself, this is going to become a podcast. This is going to be a video on my channel. This is going to become a lot of short form content and a lot of email content. So I hope you are ready to hear me talk about consistency in content creation for realtors for the next little while, because I'm going to make sure and educate you on every side of this topic. Let me know what you think of this. Was this super helpful? I want to hear about it. Send me a message on Instagram at Bryson Stephanie. Send me a DM and let me know how this is landing for you. And if you are looking for a little bit of help, if you're like really needing to get more consistent, not only in social media marketing, but maybe in all areas of your business, this is kind of where I really geek out over. And this is a lot of what we focus on in the Market Authority Academy. The Market Authority Academy is the official sponsor of this podcast. Just kidding. But not really. That is my signature coaching program where I am helping realtors go through this process and create the 3 systems in their business that are going to give them a more consistent, peaceful 2024. Those 3 systems are all about consistent marketing and lead generation. You could have guessed that. The $1 Million Client Journey on how to 5x your referrals with every deal, and the time and task management strategies that every realtor needs. That is what I'm helping you through in that 6-month program. And it is absolutely insane what we've been able to help realtors accomplish with those strategies in the last couple of years since we've been running that program, since 2020, actually. All the details are in the show notes to learn more about the Market Authority Academy and apply should you be ready to grow your business in 2024. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, keep on crushing it.